The laughter echoed across the Galactic Council chamber like the crack of distant thunder, cold and endless, rolling through vaulted ceilings carved from living crystal older than most civilizations in attendance. It wasn't joyful laughter. It wasn't even amusement. It was the sound of absolute confidence, the confidence of empires that believed they had already decided history before it had the chance to unfold. Thousands of alien delegates watched from concentric tiers stretching high above the chamber floor, their countless eyes fixed on the solitary human representative standing beneath a beam of pale starlight pouring through the transparent dome overhead. Beyond that dome, entire galaxies shimmered like scattered diamonds against an ocean of infinite black, silently witnessing a moment no historian could yet comprehend. The air carried the faint metallic scent of ancient machinery hidden beneath polished marble, while holographic banners floated weightlessly between towering columns, displaying the insignias of civilizations that had ruled the stars for millions of years. At the center of it all stood Earth, alone, underestimated, and completely surrounded. The accusations had been carefully rehearsed. Humanity was reckless. Humanity was primitive. Humanity was too emotional to participate in galactic leadership. One delegate mocked Earth's obsession with honor. Another ridiculed the human belief that promises carried greater value than power. Soon the insults became entertainment. Entire rows of representatives exchanged amused glances as sarcastic applause rippled across the chamber. Even the automated translators struggled to soften the contempt woven into every word. To them, humans were merely newcomers who had expanded too quickly, won too many impossible battles, and refused to adopt the ruthless political games that defined interstellar diplomacy. They saw compassion as weakness, loyalty as naivete, mercy as proof that humanity lacked the instinct necessary to dominate the stars. Every laugh reinforced the same assumption, that Earth would endure the humiliation because it had no other choice. The human ambassador remained perfectly still. No clenched fists. No angry outburst. No desperate attempt to defend his species. His expression betrayed nothing beyond a quiet calm that somehow felt more unsettling than rage itself. The silence surrounding him seemed to absorb every insult until the chamber itself felt strangely heavier, as though invisible pressure had settled over every delegate present. Deep inside his mind, memories surfaced, not of victories, but of sacrifices. Colonies rebuilt after pirate invasions. Human rescue ships entering radioactive disaster zones abandoned by stronger civilizations. Soldiers who had died protecting worlds that would never remember their names. Treaties signed not because humanity feared war, but because humanity believed peace was worth choosing, again and again, even when no one else did. Those memories steadied his breathing. They reminded him why he had come. Above the chamber, hidden behind layers of diplomatic protocol, encrypted military channels waited in complete silence. Across Earth's home system, orbital stations maintained radio discipline so perfect that not a single unauthorized transmission disturbed the vacuum. Fleet commanders sat inside darkened bridges illuminated only by tactical displays, awaiting a signal whose meaning had been explained years earlier but never expected to arrive. Engineers monitored dormant defense grids buried beneath oceans and mountain ranges. Intelligence officers watched deep space sensors tracking movements no civilian government had been permitted to see. Every clock, every satellite, every command center seemed to be holding its breath. Then the laughter finally faded. Not because the Council had finished mocking Earth, but because they expected the ambassador to beg. To apologize. To negotiate. Thousands of alien eyes settled upon him as complete silence swallowed the chamber. Somewhere, a distant mechanism hummed beneath the polished floor. Tiny particles of dust drifted lazily through the pale beam of starlight surrounding the lone human figure. Without hurry, he reached toward the console embedded in the ancient stone podium before him. His fingertips hovered over a single authorization key. There was no hesitation. No uncertainty. Only quiet acceptance. When his finger touched the surface, the chamber did not shake. No alarm sounded. No dramatic explosion interrupted the stillness. The universe changed with something far more terrifying. A whisper. Every treaty is terminated. For one impossible heartbeat, nothing happened. And then, across the stars, humanity answered. For nearly 2 centuries, Earth had done what no other civilization believed possible: it had kept every promise it made. While ancient empires measured strength by conquered worlds and tribute collected from weaker systems, humanity measured it by the trust others placed in them. Human convoys crossed pirate-controlled sectors to deliver medicine to planets they had never seen before. Engineering corps rebuilt orbital habitats devastated by stellar storms without asking who would pay the cost. Earth's diplomats brokered peace between species whose hatred stretched back thousands of years, often placing human lives directly between opposing fleets until negotiations could begin. Across the galaxy, the blue and white emblem of the United Nations Stellar Command became more than a symbol, it became a guarantee. If humanity arrived, civilians would survive. If humans gave their word, they would keep it, even when it hurt. Few realized that such unwavering honor demanded extraordinary discipline, and even greater restraint. Captain Elena Ward had lived her entire adult life beneath that burden. Standing on the command bridge of the UNS Resolute, she watched Earth rotate slowly beneath the armored observation canopy, a glowing blue sphere wrapped in shimmering orbital defense rings that sparkled like silver halos against the darkness of space. From this distance, continents drifted peacefully beneath layers of white cloud, their cities glowing softly as night crossed the planet. It looked impossibly calm. Impossible to imagine that beneath those peaceful lights, billions of people carried on with ordinary lives, children walking to school, scientists working in laboratories, families sharing meals, completely unaware that the future of their civilization was being decided inside a distant council chamber thousands of light-years away. The Resolute itself was a masterpiece of quiet power. Nearly 5 kilometers long, its titanium black hull absorbed starlight instead of reflecting it, making the warship appear almost invisible against the void. Rows of magnetic rail batteries rested beneath armored plating, hidden unless combat became unavoidable. Hundreds of interceptor drones waited silently inside launch bays sealed by massive blast doors. Along the bridge, holographic displays floated in midair, projecting rotating star maps filled with thousands of friendly patrol routes and civilian shipping lanes. Officers spoke in calm, measured voices as tactical information flowed continuously across transparent screens. There was no panic. No raised voices. Human crews had trained for decades to remain composed during uncertainty. Yet beneath their professionalism lingered an invisible tension none of them could fully explain. Ward rested one hand against the polished command rail, feeling the faint vibration of the ship's fusion reactors humming deep below her feet. It was a sound she had known for most of her career, a steady heartbeat that reminded her the Resolute was always ready, even when peace seemed certain. Her thoughts drifted briefly to the council session unfolding beyond the edge of explored space. She had read the diplomatic briefings herself. Another debate over trade agreements. Another discussion about border disputes. Another meeting where humanity would once again argue for cooperation instead of domination. She wanted to believe diplomacy would prevail. She truly did. But years spent commanding rescue missions and escorting refugee fleets had taught her one painful truth: the louder powerful people spoke about peace, the closer war often became. Behind her, communications officers monitored encrypted quantum channels that remained strangely silent. Usually, even during diplomatic summits, messages flowed constantly between fleet headquarters and Earth's orbital command. Today there was almost nothing. That silence unsettled her more than any warning siren could have. One young lieutenant glanced toward her, clearly sensing the same unease but unwilling to voice it. Ward simply nodded, offering reassurance she wasn't entirely certain she believed herself. Beyond the bridge windows, Earth's orbital defense network glimmered in perfect formation, elegant and motionless. Civilian traffic moved peacefully between lunar shipyards and orbital stations, while freight carriers traced thin lines of light across the darkness. Everything appeared exactly as it should. Every system functioned flawlessly. Every patrol reported normal operations. Yet somewhere deep inside, Captain Elena Ward felt the unmistakable sensation that history had already begun to change, and that the silence surrounding Earth was not the calm before another diplomatic victory. It was the final breath before the galaxy learned what humanity had been holding back all along. The first warning did not arrive with blaring alarms or panicked voices. It appeared as a single crimson icon on the UNS Resolute's tactical display, small, silent, and almost insignificant. An unidentified gravitational disturbance had formed near the outer edge of the Helios corridor, one of humanity's busiest commercial routes. The bridge officers barely had time to acknowledge it before a second alert appeared, then a third, then dozens more, spreading across the holographic star map like drops of blood falling into clear water. Captain Elena Ward stepped closer to the projection, her pulse steady but her instincts sharpening. Around her, conversations faded. Every officer understood that space itself did not behave this way unless someone had made it happen. "Confirm the signatures," Ward ordered calmly. The sensor chief swallowed before responding. "They're not natural, Captain. Multiple hyperspace emergence patterns, synchronized to the millisecond." Silence settled over the bridge. Entire fleets were arriving. Not from one direction. From everywhere. Across humanity's frontier, hidden gateways erupted with flashes of distorted light as enormous alien armadas slipped into normal space. Their hulls eclipsed nearby stars, stretching for kilometers, each formation moving with chilling precision. Ancient Imperial warships, coalition carriers, siege platforms, electronic warfare cruisers, vessels belonging to governments that had publicly sworn friendship to Earth only weeks before. Their transponders still carried diplomatic identifiers. Their encrypted channels still displayed active alliance codes. Yet their weapons were fully charged. Someone had planned this for a very long time. Deep beneath Earth's military headquarters, emergency operations centers burst into controlled activity. Holographic displays illuminated cavernous command chambers buried beneath mountains and oceans. Analysts compared fleet movements against classified intelligence gathered over decades. Patterns emerged with frightening clarity. Every invasion force targeted strategic infrastructure first: communications relays, shipyards, orbital elevators, colony capitals, and quantum relay stations. They weren't preparing negotiations. They were preparing decapitation. On the Resolute, encrypted reports flooded every console. Border Station Epsilon 12, lost. Mining Colony Arcturus Reach, communications offline. Convoy Sigma 9, distress beacon received. Then nothing. Each message ended the same way. Abrupt silence. Ward watched one transmission replay automatically. Static filled the speakers while terrified voices shouted overlapping evacuation orders. Somewhere in the background, metal screamed as something unimaginably massive tore through a station's outer hull. Then the recording ended. The bridge became deathly quiet. No one spoke. No one needed to. They all understood what those missing signals meant. Human lives were already being lost. Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, diplomats continued exchanging speeches beneath glittering crystal ceilings, unaware, or perhaps pretending not to notice, that fleets were already crossing human borders. The public humiliation of Earth's ambassador had never been the true attack. It had merely been the distraction. While the council laughed, military coalitions moved into position. While politicians debated protocol, invasion commanders synchronized arrival vectors down to fractions of a second. The mockery had bought exactly enough time for the trap to close. Ward felt a cold realization settle into her thoughts. The insults. The endless delays. The impossible confidence shown by the council's most powerful delegates. It had all been rehearsed. Every smile. Every accusation. Every carefully timed vote. Humanity had been invited to witness its own political execution while its enemies prepared the military one. A communications officer suddenly looked up, pale-faced. "Captain, we've detected encrypted coordination between at least 7 major empires. 7 species that had spent centuries competing for territory. Working together. That alone was enough to reveal how seriously they viewed humanity." The holographic star map continued turning red, system after system disappearing beneath hostile fleet markers until entire sectors seemed swallowed by darkness. Yet through all the chaos, one channel remained completely silent. Earth. No orders. No declarations. No panic. Only absolute radio discipline. Captain Ward stared toward the distant blue planet hanging beyond the bridge canopy, its oceans still glowing peacefully beneath scattered clouds. It looked untouched, almost fragile. But she knew better. Somewhere beneath that calm surface, decisions were being made that would determine whether humanity became history. Or became something the galaxy would never dare underestimate again. The confirmation reached the UNS Resolute not as a speech, but as a single encrypted priority transmission stamped with the highest authorization level in human history. Every console on the bridge froze. Every holographic display dimmed before reorganizing into one stark message that only senior commanders had ever been cleared to read. The title alone sent a ripple of disbelief through the room. Protocol Aegis, all treaty restrictions revoked. Captain Elena Ward felt the air leave her lungs. She had spent 23 years serving the United Nations Stellar Command, studying classified doctrines and emergency contingencies, yet even she had believed Protocol Aegis was little more than a strategic myth, an insurance policy designed to discourage enemies from ever attempting exactly what was happening now. But myths did not carry biometric authentication from Earth's Supreme Defense Council. Myths did not arrive with activation codes. Across the solar system, invisible chains began to fall away. For generations, humanity had hidden the truth behind diplomacy. Every treaty signed with the Galactic Council had contained public articles promoting peace and cooperation. Buried beneath layers of legal language, however, were confidential limitations accepted only by Earth itself. Humanity had voluntarily restricted its own military research, autonomous defense systems, quantum artificial intelligence, and strategic fleet deployments, not because the galaxy demanded it, but because humanity feared what unlimited power might become if left unchecked. Earth had chosen restraint when no one else would. It had locked away technologies capable of reshaping civilizations, believing trust was stronger than intimidation. Those promises had become sacred, honored even when rivals quietly ignored their own agreements. Now those promises no longer existed. Deep beneath Antarctica's kilometers-thick ice, seismic monitors awakened after remaining dormant for 187 years. Entire mountain ranges trembled as armored blast doors the size of cities slowly separated with echoes that rolled through frozen caverns untouched since humanity's earliest expansion into space. Beneath the Pacific Ocean, abyssal shipyards illuminated one section after another, revealing colossal warships resting silently inside flooded construction vaults. Hidden facilities carved into the dark side of the moon unlocked layer after layer of electromagnetic shielding, exposing factories that had continued building in complete secrecy while the galaxy believed Earth possessed only modest defensive fleets. Across Mars, Titan, Europa, and distant Kuiper installations, forgotten reactors surged to full power, bathing ancient corridors in cold blue light as automated systems announced the same words in calm mechanical voices. Strategic restraint protocols, terminated. Captain Ward watched live intelligence feeds cascade across the bridge. Satellite images once marked inaccessible suddenly resolved into detailed military schematics. Entire fleets previously erased from official databases appeared on tactical displays as green identification symbols spread across the holographic star map. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. Massive carrier formations emerged from gravitational concealment fields orbiting rogue planets. Quantum strike groups powered up beyond the heliopause. Artificial intelligence coordination networks, long prohibited under interstellar agreements, came online simultaneously, linking every human warship, sensor platform, defense station, and orbital fortress into a single living battlefield consciousness. No panic spread through the bridge. Only stunned silence. A young lieutenant whispered almost to himself, We had all this?" Ward answered without taking her eyes off the unfolding display. "We always did." The realization struck harder than any weapon could. Humanity had never been technologically inferior. Humanity had never lacked military strength. Humanity had simply chosen not to wield it. While the Galactic Council mistook compassion for weakness, Earth had quietly prepared for the one day when every peaceful path would finally disappear. Every hidden shipyard. Every classified research station. Every forbidden innovation had existed for one purpose alone, not conquest, not domination, but survival if trust itself ever failed. Far away, the invading fleets continued advancing toward human worlds, completely unaware that the civilization they believed cornered had just transformed before their eyes. The galaxy thought it had trapped Earth. Instead, it had unlocked the only force humanity had spent 2 centuries trying desperately never to unleash. The first alien fleet expected resistance. They had rehearsed for missile exchanges, defensive formations, desperate retreats, and prolonged orbital sieges. What they had not prepared for was complete tactical disappearance. As the invasion armada crossed the outer defense perimeter of the Helios corridor, their targeting computers abruptly lost every human vessel. One heartbeat, Earth's patrol ships filled their sensors. The next, they were gone, as though space itself had swallowed them whole. Confused commanders flooded encrypted channels with verification requests while electronic warfare officers searched for system failures. There were none. Then, without warning, the darkness behind the formation shimmered. Hundreds of human warships emerged from gravitational shadow fields that no known civilization believed could exist. They arrived in perfect silence, engines emitting almost no detectable radiation, their matte black hulls absorbing the starlight until only faint navigation lights revealed impossible shapes surrounding the invaders. Humanity had not retreated. Humanity had simply moved where the enemy believed no fleet could survive. Captain Elena Ward stood at the center of the UNS Resolute's bridge as the tactical display transformed into a living battlefield. Green icons multiplied across the holographic star map, each representing a hidden task force emerging simultaneously throughout human space. Artificial intelligence battle coordinators synchronized millions of calculations every second, predicting enemy maneuvers before alien admirals had time to issue commands. Quantum communication linked every ship, drone, orbital station, and defense platform into a single unified consciousness of strategy. It was not chaos. It was orchestration. Every movement resembled notes in a symphony composed decades before the first shot was ever fired. Ward watched firing solutions appear before her crew could request them. Civilian evacuation corridors opened automatically through combat zones. Defensive shields expanded around vulnerable colonies exactly seconds before incoming plasma bombardments arrived. Humanity wasn't merely fighting faster. It was thinking faster. Execute horizon formation, Ward ordered. The response echoed instantly across thousands of vessels. Confirmed. Entire squadrons accelerated with breathtaking precision, folding through localized gravity distortions that bent the battlefield itself. Swarms of autonomous interceptor drones burst from concealed launch bays, not to overwhelm the enemy through numbers alone, but to dismantle command structures with surgical accuracy. Rail cannons fired dense tungsten projectiles at fractions of light speed, punching clean corridors through heavily armored battleships. Directed energy arrays sliced apart missile barrages before they crossed half the distance to their targets. Yet despite possessing overwhelming firepower, human commanders targeted propulsion systems, sensor arrays, and weapon platforms before striking life support sections. They fought to disable whenever possible. Even now, at the edge of extinction, humanity refused unnecessary slaughter. Across distant colonies, ordinary citizens joined the battle in ways history would never fully record. Engineers rerouted planetary power grids to reinforce orbital shields. Medical crews transformed underground transit systems into emergency hospitals before casualties arrived. Civilian pilots flew supply ships directly through active combat corridors to deliver ammunition, medicine, and rescue equipment. Scientists monitored enemy electronic signatures, feeding real-time countermeasures into military networks. Millions of individuals, soldiers and civilians alike, became pieces of the same impossible defense. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been its hidden fleets. It was its unity. On the bridge, Ward watched the largest coalition invasion force approach Earth itself, an armada so vast it darkened entire sectors of space. Thousands of enemy warships advanced in layered formations, convinced sheer numbers would finally break human resistance. She felt fear tighten inside her chest. Not for herself, but for the billions of lives glowing peacefully on the blue world beneath them. Then Earth's final defense awakened. The orbital ring surrounding the planet unfolded like enormous metallic flowers blooming against the stars. Massive shield generators connected through beams of shimmering light until an immense protective barrier surrounded the entire planet. Hidden fortress platforms emerged from beneath lunar craters. Titan-class carriers rose from beneath camouflage fields orbiting the moon. Deep space reserve fleets arrived from every direction, encircling the invading coalition with mathematical perfection. The battle lasted less than a day. When the last hostile flagship surrendered, silence returned to the stars. Not because humanity had destroyed the galaxy's greatest military alliance, but because, for the first time, every civilization finally understood the terrible truth. Earth had never been protected by treaties. The treaties had protected everyone else from what humanity was truly capable of becoming. The war ended with a silence unlike any the galaxy had ever known. There were no triumphant victory parades drifting through the stars. No broadcasts celebrating conquest. No fleets descending upon defeated capitals to demand tribute or rewrite the map of civilization. Across thousands of star systems, the guns simply fell quiet. Fires that had burned across shattered orbital stations slowly faded into darkness, while rescue ships, many of them bearing the unmistakable blue and white insignia of Earth, crossed battle-scarred space to retrieve survivors without asking which side they had fought for. Human medics treated wounded alien soldiers beside their own. Engineers stabilized collapsing habitats that had moments earlier launched attacks against humanity. To many observers, it made no sense. After suffering betrayal on a galactic scale, Earth had every opportunity to become the new supreme empire. Instead, humanity chose something far more difficult. It chose restraint once again. Captain Elena Ward stood aboard the UNS Resolute, watching the stars drift silently beyond the bridge canopy. The battlefield that had been alive with blinding weapons fire only hours earlier was now filled with slow-moving recovery craft and fragments of twisted metal reflecting distant sunlight. Escape pods floated gently through the void, each carrying frightened survivors uncertain whether rescue or execution awaited them. Human shuttles reached them first. Ward closed her eyes for a brief moment, remembering every officer who would never return home, every colony that had endured the first wave of invasion, every family forever changed by a war they never wanted. Victory carried weight. It always did. She had learned long ago that the greatest commanders never celebrated the battles they won, they remembered the people they had lost. Far away, inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere had changed beyond recognition. The magnificent crystal hall that once echoed with mocking laughter now stood wrapped in absolute silence. Holographic banners hung motionless above cracked marble floors, while shattered treaty seals drifted slowly through the chamber's artificial gravity field, spinning like forgotten relics of an age built upon deception. Delegates who had once spoken with arrogant certainty now stared at the empty podium where Earth's ambassador had delivered only a single sentence before history changed forever. None of them could erase the memory of that quiet voice. None of them could forget how quickly confidence had become fear. For the first time in millions of years, the Council understood that power did not belong to those who shouted the loudest. It belonged to those who remained calm when everyone else believed they were powerless. Then every surviving communications array across known space activated simultaneously. No dramatic music. No threats. No declaration of supremacy. Only the steady voice of Earth's ambassador, transmitted into every military command center, every civilian colony, every orbital station, and every ship still drifting among the stars. Respect cannot be written into law. It cannot be purchased through wealth or enforced through fear. It is earned through trust, and lost the moment that trust is betrayed. His words traveled farther than any weapon ever could. Humanity sought partners, not subjects. We honored every agreement because we believed peace was stronger than domination. Today, those agreements are gone, not because we desired war, but because others believed honor was weakness. Across countless worlds, ordinary citizens listened in silence. Parents held their children closer. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Leaders who had once celebrated Earth's humiliation now questioned everything they thought they understood about strength. The final transmission ended with one sentence that would be carved into monuments, taught in academies, and remembered long after the last wreckage of the war had turned to dust. We did not survive because we were the strongest. A brief pause. We survived because we never forgot why strength exists. Years later, historians would debate battles, technologies, and military strategies. They would analyze hidden fleets, impossible defenses, and the collapse of the greatest coalition ever assembled. But every account reached the same conclusion. The day the galaxy laughed at Earth was not the day humanity proved its power. It was the day the stars learned that the most dangerous civilization is not the one that seeks war, but the one that spends centuries choosing peace, until it is given no choice at all.